Taylor Swift's 2014 album, 1989, is, in my opinion, one of the best pop records to ever come out. It is pure pop perfection. 13 tracks with no skips in between, 16 if you get the deluxe edition, and they are all straight bangers. And this is the first album of Taylor Swift's that I ever actually heard all the way through. I'd heard some of the singles from some of the other albums, but when I heard that she was doing a pop record, I was like, I'm all in, and it did not disappoint. I remember when it came out, me and my cousin literally got into my car and just drove around town listening to it, and we were just elated at how great this thing sounded. So obviously with record label issues and her not being able to get back her catalog, she decided to re-record all of her albums under that original contract. And this is now the fourth of the 6 albums, 1989, Taylor's version. Now, I had the privilege today, because I had nothing else to do, to drive around and listen to this 1989 Taylor's version album. But what I also did was I wanted to see what the differences were between the original version that she recorded back in 2014 and the newer version, to see what the differences were and which one I liked better. And as much as I want to support Taylor in her journey to own her stuff and to be able to have people stream her versions of the album so she can get money for it, I got to be honest, guys. I think what I'll call the Scooter Braun version, the 2014 version of the album, is better for a variety of reasons. Now, I want to preface this by saying, if you've never heard the original version of 1989, then what Taylor does here is a near spot-on mimicry of some of the things on that album. The song pacing, the majority of the beats, and also how she sings, even at times where she sings notes that are similar to the notes she sang on that album. I got to give her credit, because I don't know too many artists that could actually do that. But there were a few grievances that I had about this newer version of the album that makes me like the other version, the original version, much, much better. To start off with, when I turned the album on the first song, I couldn't tell if it was my stereo system or maybe the mix itself, but the volume on it seemed slightly lower than what I remembered for the original album. So after listening to Welcome to New York, Taylor's version, I went back and listened to the Scooter Braun version of the song, and sure enough, the album mix is actually louder in the original version than on the newer version. Now, I don't know if people that were in the studio were able to tell that when they were mixing it, but on playback, it was definitely noticeable. Like, it's several decibels lower than the original mix. Now, the problem with this is that because of that, across the entire album, even at the times where she sounds great, the original mix pops a lot better. You can hear luscious sounds easier. And also there are times where it seems as though the record feels less exciting simply because it's not able to get as loud. Aside from the actual leveling of the sound, though, there are also sound mixing issues on some of the songs that I could not comprehend. For example, going back to Welcome to New York, she sounds almost like her voice gets lost in the melody, whereas on the original version, you could actually pronouncedly hear her voice when she's singing. There are other little, like, small minor details here and there that, as a music connoisseur, I know Taylor Swift's 1989 inside and out, to where I know when to listen for certain notes, certain bells and whistles that either were altered here or weren't as powerful here. Small little things. For example, on Blank Space, that little click that she does before I'll write your name, it sounds better and more harsh on the original version than it does here on this version, where it's a little bit softer and therefore, to me, doesn't have as much of an impact. There are other songs where I think that the way she sings certain notes is better on the original. Like, for example, on Wonderland, that last note at the end where she's like, Wonderland. The way she sings that at the end of the song is very different on the new Taylor's version of the song. Also, on the song Bad Blood, I think the drums that they decided to use sound way better on the original version than they do on the newer version. Again, that could just be because the volume's a little bit louder, but I'm really listening. Somehow, like, the drums sound a bit more padded on the new Taylor's version than they did in the original. And it's just, those are just some examples of the many various things that are different stylistically. There are times where she sings certain notes that I thought were better on the original version. There are times where she sounds a bit more muted in her delivery than she did on the original version. And so I say this because this doesn't necessarily mean it's a a worser album. Like, again, if you have not heard the original version of 1989 and somebody just gave you this version, you're getting about 85% of how that original version sounded. But because the original version is so ingrained into my head, it makes me like the original version better by way of the fact that it sounds louder, by the way that all the notes that I like that are there are still there. And honestly, her being older, it's amazing she's able to really mimic as well as she does her younger self. But there are still times where, like, the level of innocence or the fact that she was trying new stuff for the first time back then, it adds a different delivery to her voice at times than on this newer version, where in some songs she sounds a bit more confident than she should for the thing that she's singing about. And overall, all that stuff makes me like the original version a lot better. Now, in this review, I'm not reviewing any of the newer songs because I'm going to actually save that for my reactions. I want to react to those individually. But in terms of what we have here in reference to the original material, I would say if you want to support Taylor, you're not going to miss out listening to the Taylor's version of 1989. But I'm telling you, the original one sounds a lot more rich, has a lot more bass tones to it. The instrumentation is a little bit better in places, and it just sounds like a version of Taylor that we're only getting 85% of on this newer version. So with all that said, let me know your guys' thoughts. Did you like the newer version of the album? Did you like the older one? Do you think Scooter Braun is a prick regardless? Either way, leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear them and see your thoughts about this newer version of Taylor's album. Also, let me know if there's any other albums that have come out that you want to see me review. If I haven't heard it, then I'll take a listen to it and do a review. Thanks for watching. I'm APT Songs, and I will catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
All the girls in the place trying to get in my space, but I only want you. I only want you. Want to smile in my face and give themselves